Okay, Pea Ridge, beginning of the 3:30 turn, after the Confederate half of the turn. See here, Confederates beginning to pull back, plan to go back to the Pea Ridge and try to release Van Dorn and Price. They're also fighting their way out of their trap, which may actually be the more effective endpoint. Price charged forward, and these 4th Iowa finally gave up the ghost and ran away, abandoning the guns. The guns were captured. But in the fighting over the guns with the crew, Price was killed, using the additional advantage. Now he's showing up this turn. He got kind of lucky. Van Dorn's good at assigning new leaders, actually. Any general that has you in the range gives you a bonus to that. Anyway, that's a major blow because Price's range helped command his large amount of units, and now he's got a smaller range and he won't be able to command units as well. I had to mark him down as actually dead, and well, we got some routed units heading off to this end that I can't cope with. We got ones up here just flowing towards the edge of the map. No way I can do anything about them in the future. And this is a long route, especially with those cav kind of saying, yeah, you're not just going to go in column and march by. We'll do something about that. And one can expect the Union to actually, pursue to some extent. So even getting just one of the 2 units under McIntosh's command, Hebert got lucky. His unit routed out, and he ended up getting back into command that way, actually, which didn't matter much except it allowed him more movement. But between Hebert and McIntosh, they can move forward. Pike's got to figure out where the hell he's going to show up, but he'll be able to rally his Indians and presumably grab these guys as well, I don't know, and do something, maybe reconnect, and then I can divide that command and send Hebert on his own. I don't know. But it's not a pleasant situation right now for the Confederates. I got to finish the rally phase, give them their leaders. Alright, Union side of the turn fairly quiet. Over here, they're pretty much letting the Confederates away with that disengagement. They didn't push forward and engage them. Basically, there's the feeling of, well, let them get some distance. I don't want to lose a battle right here at the village. And then perhaps I'll pursue. Not even firing the artillery, though, in a sense of, well, low-valued payoffs, really. Unlikely to do much damage, and it's not going to have any disruption effect that's useful because there's no line that I'm assaulting or that's coming at me. So why waste the ammo? I mean, even though I have more ammo with my supply wagons, I don't really want to just spend it uselessly. And the Confederates likewise held off for the most part, although the Hart gun fired its last shot. The feeling here being, I'm not going to get any more ammo. I don't want to have to deal with this thing anymore. Let's take its last shot. Maybe it'll get lucky and hit some artillery. Over here, the Union was mainly pinned down under fire. Oh, I forgot to fire this guy. I fired the Confederate defensive fire. I forgot the Union fire. But, mainly they're just consolidating their position along the bottleneck, trying to keep it plugged, and trying to prevent the Elkhorn Tavern from falling before the end of the day. Because, like I said, I think if I can hold all 4 locations, this is a guaranteed win. Well, after the Confederate side of the turn, the Confederates counted up the distance, and they would not be able to engage in combat on the rear of that. I don't know who's down there, Carr's forces. Even if they could rush there, even if these cav aren't in the way. So they're pulling back and using the leaders, McIntosh and Hebert, to go back and try to rally their troops, build up a force. If they manage to survive this first day, they'll at least have a somewhat larger and more powerful force to, try to bring into play. Whether that they withdraw those brigades, although there's a pain to that because you don't get the straggler recovery if you do that, and swing around back there, or just try to maybe add some force and an outflanking to help here once Elkburn Tavern, or extend the line or whatever. At least there'll be forces on the board that are a little bit more significant than if I run up here and then find that I can't make it. Now, there is still a kind of an advantage. If I did run up here towards the tavern, I think I could make it to the tavern itself, and I think I could bottle those troops up. It seems a little too risky, and anyway, these kind of decisions are hard to coordinate and have happen on the battlefield. I feel like this is the more reasonable result. Recoup the troops. Not going to be able to make it into fighting by the end of the day. For the Union, well, we haven't gone yet. Let's go over to this side where Van Dorn's forces are. Now, they pushed forward and pushed these cav, I think, here. Yeah. Back with a melee that they could withdraw from without any resistance. Over here, the Union more or less paralyzed things. They've got heavy amounts of troops in both these spaces, so it's going to be hard to just melee them. I could have gotten a -1 on this one, or combined all my troops and gotten, I think, an even on that one. That's a pretty big crapshoot when I can kind of outflank and maybe get an extra bonus that way. Of course, there's a good chance those cav are going to drive me away. I have no ammo. I'm just trying to press forward without any guns. But if this frontage starts to increase and widen, and the terrain sort of indicates that it will, the Union can't keep holding it with what they've got. I've got a lot more pieces, so I can kind of keep surrounding and pushing around. It's the terrain that's allowed the Union to hold this little tight line with very few. Well, that's allowed them to produce these dense units. They could spread out, but then it's much easier to push them. Anyway, that's where we are now. On to the Union turn, see where they move to. And we move into the 4:30 turn. Union forces beginning to spread out, widening the perimeter. Possible engagement. They're moving the artillery to get it up on the cornfield, where it's going to have a lot of clear shots, making it very, very difficult for the Confederates to advance through here. Of course, it's painful for them to advance through the woods, too, because it's slow. But it's a lot safer than facing the artillery, of course. The Confederates have a decent amount of artillery, but they're kind of low on ammo at this point. McIntosh has really used up a lot of his ammo, from what I recall. I'm sorry, McCulloch. You can see I've got, maybe half ammo on half the guns, and the rest are pretty much down. We're also going to be losing, I would assume, the gun back here, because there's no way I'm going to get the crew. It's that unit with a route marker up there to it before the Union can get it, unless I were to fight to defend it. I'm just abandoning it, basically. But the Union's got to actually go and take it. Otherwise, the Confederates, if they re-advance in that direction, can, crew it and start using it again. Over here, the Union's still trying to, do their delaying tactics. Bill Busey's cav up ran up from defending the river, or the creek line here at Curtis's headquarters. It's pretty obvious that that's not going to get interfered with. It's not going to be much. It's one strength point of pistol-armed cav. But, a final kind of reserve to prevent some kind of breakthrough in this direction or whatever. It doesn't seem like a bad idea. It's not very useful for anything I can do with it, especially without brigade combat effectiveness. We also see Franz Sigel showing up. And my plan with him is to march him up this road and kind of deploy him and then spread out and increase the defensive perimeter further and further until I've got it, kind of including enough here that I can throw defenses at Eichhorn Tavern without feeling like I'm kind of risking them being cut off in the back. And that's kind of the goal here, is to seal off McIntosh's entire force, in which case maybe the Confederates will withdraw them and bring them in under Van Dorn. I don't know. Next turn. This is the midpoint of the Confederate advance. They've charged forward, pushing forward as they did. And here's why they're not getting any traction. 2 units pinned, 1 routed and driven back. It's very actually another one back here routed. It's very hard, not only for the getting the leadership in place and rolling and being able to make the bayonet charge, because they're out of bullets for the most part, but even just to stand there through the fire, they're not getting any traction there. It's kind of amazing to me how far they've gotten given the situation and how this plays out. Anyhow, after the Confederate turn, this area is completely a failure at this point. The Confederates weren't able to even fire or do anything. The artillery fire, well, the only point to that is to pin down Union units. They can't really break the line, and that's not really terribly useful unless they're trying to do their melees. So I withheld fire. There was nothing they could do with any effect. Over here, Confederates continue their withdrawal. Ooh, I forgot to move Macintosh. Let me get him back out of range. He's got a long trip to go, but he's got Heber still in command, so he can swing him in. Pike's command has rallied under the new leader, but, well, he's still detached, so that's not really a problem. I was going to say, but he's out of command, so he can't move very far. But we've put the entire Confederate command out of command in this sense. And at this point, the Union might be considering, hey, no commanders there. Let's charge, and I think we're going to put some pressure on them, see how far back we can push them. If we can shove them back here, they're not going to be very useful at all. I can bottle them up here in this woods forever, basically. So we move to 5 p.m. Union beginning to press forward here. The Bowen Cav got driven back by Welch's troops. This is the wagon crew. There's no way of marking artillery as not having a crew. So I've been using the wagon crew markers for that, which is unreasonable, but I ran out of those and I started using other things, ammo depletions and gauged marker in that case, basically just to tell me, hey, pay attention. You can write it down on the sheet of paper, but that doesn't help me. I'm not checking the paper every time I move a unit, for example. So this helps me remind me, but Union beginning to march up, positioning themselves to make an attack through the woods if need be. I really like the idea of pushing them back, but here's the problem. These artillery, I set them up with the intention to attack with them. I looked at the effects, and even if I masked them against something, out here using the artillery table, because of the grape shot effect, it has almost no effect. It basically puts me on the last chart. It's not worth firing. It's not worth spending ammo. Even though the Union has plenty. It's just not worth it. I've rediverted Osterhaus to march up to help with this. I am sending Asboth out that way. I need the reinforcements over there. I know that. And in fact, it's becoming more apparent as this gun has been abandoned and driven back by Price's fire. This position is not really going to hold if I don't get some reinforcements there quickly. I've thrown the pistol troops in to try to hold the line, but yeah, it's falling apart. Anyway, I'm going to load this one up. It's kind of a pity because I think there's a very good chance that the Confederates won't get here, and we're going to have a very short video, just 2 turns. But, hey, I think it's better if we keep them kind of short. Some people have complained about the longer ones anyway.